Today we're going to cover two topics, quick and full menus, and then we're going to learn to jog in both joint and world coordinate systems. So if you would turn to page 56 in your textbook, this is where the quick and full menus are. If I come back here and look at the menus now, it says quick up here at the top. I have fewer options, and also if I look at the sub-menus here, there's a lot fewer. Remember, for I/O there were 11. So if you want to go onto your teach pendant, first take a look. I'm going to switch back here. So I'll switch back to full menus. If you go take a look at your menus, you should have, say, menu up here at the top, and there'll be a large list with a lot of sub-menus. Okay, is that what you're seeing? Okay. So let's go and switch to quick menus. Press the function key, cursor down to 0 or type 0, either will work. That will take you to the function 2, and then either hit enter or type 1, and that will toggle to quick menus. If you come back to menus here, you'll see it says quick at the top, and now there are fewer and fewer options. I/O only has 3 sub-menus. Okay? So we good? Okay. So why don't you go ahead and toggle back to full menus. Any questions on that? Okay, good. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at here is how to jog the robot in 2 different coordinate systems. There are a total of 5. We're only going to look at 2 today. The 2 that we look at are the perhaps the easiest, certainly the first 2 that you would want to look at on these robots. Those are joint and world. If you go ahead and turn to page 66 in your textbook, and you'll see that 66 talks about the jog speed. We need to first see how to set the jog speed of the robot. The speed is shown up here in the upper right-hand corner. And if you don't press shift and cursor through these, it goes by 5%. When you're going down, it'll go down to 5, and then by 1% down to fine and very fine. If you want to go through this faster, hold down the shift key and press the +% and -%, and then it jumps in larger increments from 5 to 50 to 100%. Okay? So that will allow you to set the jog speed. That is a percentage of the speed of the robot. Yes?
On the chart that it has on page 66,
yes.
It says that fine and very fine are pulse speeds. What does that mean?
Correct. That means that when you jog in the percents up here, when you have a percent, you can just hold the jog key down and the robot will continue to move, okay? Move that axis or in a straight line. When you're on fine or very fine, you have to press and release, okay? So it's a very slow motion. It will be difficult to even see that motion on the virtual robots here, but when we go across the hall, especially if we have a pointy tool in the robot, and you're doing very precise position, those 2 will allow you to do that positioning. Any other questions? Okay, so we're now going to see how to jog in joint mode, or the joint is not a coordinate system, but it is one of the ways that the robot jogs. It's the most efficient way for the robot to jog. All it needs to do is turn on a single servo and keep track of the position with the encoder. You can actually jog in multiple axes at a time if you can hold down more than one of the jog buttons with your fingers. The axes on the robot are down here is joint 1 or axis 1. That corresponds to a person's waist and twisting about the waist. Of course, the robot can turn much further. Joint 2 up here excuse me, is the shoulder, or corresponds to a person's shoulder. Joint 3 is like a person's elbow. Joint 4 is your arm, kind of your forearm twisting. Our robots actually have a joint in there that they will twist about. Joint 5 is an up-down motion of the robot's wrist, corresponds to a human wrist. And joint 6 is simply a rotation of this faceplate here. That's where the tool is mounted, and it corresponds to your hand rotating around like this. The angles of those plus the lengths of each of these links allow the robot to place a tool at any place and any orientation in space. So to jog in joint, I'm first going to set my speed. Virtual robot here, I will set it for 50%, and then I need to go to chord here. Chord key allows you to toggle through all of the different types of jogging. I'm in tool, here's user, you see it up here, joint, jog frame, world. I want to go into joint. And now I hold the shift key down and I will jog. This will jog the waist, okay? Back and forth. These will jog the shoulder. Now the shoulder and the elbow actually move together. When you're jogging the shoulder, it also jogs or moves the elbow, although it's a natural coordination between those two. And then this moves just the elbow joint. Okay, that's joint 3. Joint 4 is a rotation, remember, about the arm there. 5 is the up-down pitch of your wrist. And if you look carefully here, we can see joint 6 is a rotation of that faceplate. Okay, so if you want to now get your teach pendants, be sure you squeeze the dead man switch. You will need to go to the coordinate and select joint. Okay. Set an appropriate speed. You always want to set a speed, at least on the real robots, that is appropriate to the conditions and your experience. And then hold down the shift key and jog each of these axes. Okay. The first 3, the waist, the shoulder, and the elbow are the major axes. And then the rotation about the arm, pitch of the wrist, rotation of the hand are the minor axes. Okay, so, and you get all, be sure you're comfortable with jogging the robot in joint around all those axes. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so joint was very simple for the robot to do. Easy, it's the most natural if you're a robot, but for people, there are other coordinate systems that make it much easier to position the tool. And we're going to look at one of those. That is the world coordinate system. It is a Cartesian coordinate system with all three axes orthogonal, meaning they're at 90 degrees to each other. It's a right-handed coordinate system. So if you use your right hand, point in the direction of the x-axis. For our robots, x is forward. So if I look down from the top here, plus x is away from where the cables come out. Minus x is back towards the cables. That's the direction of your index finger. The y for us is off to the left of the robot, or the robot's left, out this way. So you take your middle fingers and point them in that direction, and the thumb will then point in the z direction, and that is straight up here. So up is plus z, down is minus z. Okay? So I'm going to switch by going to chord. I'll take off the shift. Chord, I'm in jog frame. There is world. You need to see world up here to be in the world coordinate system. And I will jog in the x direction first. X will be forward and backwards. So I need to hold the shift down, and I'll do a minus x first, and then a plus x going forwards and backwards. Plus y will be off to the left here. So if I look from the left, the robot will maintain the orientation of the tool. There is minus y, plus y, and then I'll look from the side again and do the z. Minus z is down, plus z is up. Again, it maintains the orientation of the tool. Now, in the world coordinate system, the minor axes here are actually rotations about axes parallel to the x, y, and z axes. And this will hold the tool center point stationary and rotate about those axes that are parallel to x, y, z. So it's a very complex motion, and I'll try to show you this here. We'll first go about the x-axis. Remember, x is coming out this way, so I will, let's go here and rotate, rotate about x. We're almost along the x, so it's just rotating around that. Jump my speed up a little bit. Let's take a look at it around the y. Okay. Notice how the tool center point is remaining stationary, and the robot is rotating it around that axis. And then I'll come back here a little bit, and we'll look at it from the top. We'll rotate about the z-axis here. Again, a complex motion. The robot moves whatever joints are necessary to achieve that motion. Okay, is everybody good? Ready to do it on the virtual robots here? Okay, so take your teach pendants. First thing you need to do is get into the world system here. So you do that with the coord key, just through those until it says world. And then you notice your speed will be set down again to 10%. You may want to bring that up to maybe 50%. And then hold down the shift key and jog the world in the world coordinate system. Okay. So let's take a look here. Yes. That's the X, the Y, and the Z, up and down. Yes. Okay. And then go ahead and do the minor axes, the rotations. Very good. Any questions? Okay. X, Y, and Z is up and down, yes. And then be sure you also do the minors. Any questions? Are you ready to go over to the real robots?
Yeah.
Good? Okay. The quick full menus here, okay? If you go to menu, you'll see what our full menus look like, okay? The deep tree with a lot of options. IO's especially good one to look at because it has a whole bunch of sub-menus out here. Now go to press function. 0 will take you to the next function menu here. And then press 1, and that will toggle you to quick menus. Now when you go into menus, you'll see it says quick at the top, and there are fewer options. There's also fewer sub-options here. Okay? And as I said, if you password protect this, when it comes up, it'll go into quick, and you can't easily change out of that so that an operator doesn't do things that they shouldn't be able to do. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so here we have on our LR-mate robots, we have them turned on. The first thing we need to do is go into the joint mode. So press your coord key till you get to joint. Well, then you're ready to hold down the shift, and you have the speed set. Hey, let's set a speed. Let's set it to 50% here on the real robots. We don't want to go too fast. 50%, we're in a pretty safe position here, so we should be good with that. So if you hold down shift and just press the up percent, you should get to 50, okay? And now hold the shift and jog each of the joints here, okay? 1 is the waist, yes. And 2 is the shoulder. Notice how joint 3 was also moving there when you jog joint 3, or jog joint 2, joint 3 also jogs. And there is joint 3. 4 is the rotation about your middle of your arm. 5, pitch of the wrist. And 6 will be rotation of the faceplate. We now have the grippers and the camera on there, so you can see that rotating. Okay? Comfortable with that? Okay. To go to the world coordinate system, again, you will press the coord key and go to world. You'll have to reset your speed. Okay, set it back to 50% again. And now we're going to jog first in the X X plus should bring the tool center point out towards you, and you can see how it's moving this way. Minus will move it away from you. That's the Y direction. Notice how it's maintaining the orientation of the tool center point there. For us, the tool center point is at the middle of the grippers, right where the grippers would grab hold of something. And then Z is up and down. Okay. There you're doing the minor about the x-axis. And we can do a minor about the y, so pull it around a little bit more that way around y. Just keep going around y a little bit further back. Notice how the point on the grippers there is staying stationary. We'll go a little bit further and it'll make it easier for us to see it move around the Z. Okay, that's good. And now if you would rotate it around the Z axis, the Z is the up and down. Notice how again the tool center point remains stationary. You should even be able to go further than that. A very complex motion, but you don't need to worry about that. That's calculations that the robot's doing. Any questions?